You can absolutely conquer whatever it is you choose to confront. In this show, we talk PTG, we listen and believe, we support and empower. Whether you have experienced domestic violence personally or not, someone you know has. Your circle of family, friends, acquaintances, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience domestic violence at some point in their life. Physical abuse is only one of the many forms of domestic violence. Survivors also report experience of verbal, emotional, spiritual, sexual, financial, electronic, and so much more. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It can leave you traumatized and devastated, mentally, emotionally, financially. You can find yourself homeless, jobless, helpless. The list can go on. There's blankets of insecurities, triggers, doubts, and other residual effects that become hurdles that impact our life as we do our best to move on. Many people associate butterflies with a sense of freedom. We've been taught along the way to focus on the transformation that takes place inside of the cocoon. I invite you to take a moment to conceptualize all the odds the caterpillar was up against and needed to defeat in order to get to a safe place, to build its cocoon and actually experience the transformation. My name is A. Garcia. I am a mother and survivor of a double attempted homicide. Now, I'm dedicating my life to take yours to the next level by experiencing post-traumatic growth to begin a new chapter in your life. Let's get started on this journey together. Confronting Domestic Violence is a 501c3. All contributions, volunteers, and sponsorships are welcomed. It takes a community to make a difference. Nobody should suffer alone. Please scan the QR code. Garcia here. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Confronting Domestic Violence. What we cover is not intended to ignite any triggers. For what you want to conquer, you must confront. Today, I have a guest with an incredible story who's willing to openly share their journey through their struggles and their triumphs. Today, I have Isabell Rodriguez with us. And before I introduce her, I just want to make sure that you're aware that many of times another person's experience can become a life-saving resource for someone else. So please listen closely. Welcome and thank you, Isabell, for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, and we had some great conversation behind the scene before we started our recording today. And I am just so honored and privileged, again, I'll say it over and over, to have you here and to share your story, your exposure as a child, and what you went through to level up your coping skills and grudge through some of the trauma you endured, and how you have experienced post-traumatic growth and what you're doing to give back, not just to yourself, but your family, your community, and the world as a whole.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. And you know what? I believe that the more you share and open up, the more you can save lives. Because I also remember 10 years ago, no, I'm sorry, that's 15 years ago now, or even more, when all of this happened to me, when I was abused by my stepfather, there wasn't many things out there. And especially like internet wasn't a thing like it is now. Now we have apps, we have Instagram, we have all these things. So I just remember how lonely I felt back in the day. And I thought, one day I will make a change by telling my story. And that's what we're doing. And I love that you have this platform for women to come and actually share, because it's so important.
It is. And it's unfortunate that the statistics show 1 out of 3 women have experienced or been exposed to a form of domestic violence. And the purpose really to have this platform is to openly share our wounds and to provide inspiration and encouragement to those that know they shouldn't be where they are and are struggling to get through or trying to figure out how to get out. And I think that there's so many of us that have been there, done that, gotten through it, and now just relaying our message can really, truly help save a life or impact somebody's life for the better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The more we speak up, the more we can change and save lives. I absolutely agree.
And so tell me more about how you got through the abuse that you endured, receiving it especially from your stepfather.
Yeah, my abuse actually started very early in my life, actually. First, I lost my father when I was 1 year and 2 months, which affected me subconsciously. And then when I was 5 years old, I was sexually abused by a stepbrother because my mom, after she lost my father, tried to find love in different places. And she was very insecure. And I think that she attracted the wrong men into her life all her life. So forwarding, when I was 11, she met the man of her dreams. And it went so quickly. And I think that if you come from a healthy household, you would see these red flags. Like you don't move in together after 3 months, for instance. So it became, I would say, hell on earth very quickly as soon as we moved into him, because we moved in 3 months and I was 11 years old. I was in a very vulnerable age at this time. And I just remember he was drinking a lot. He was hitting walls. He was very verbally abusive, screaming very loud, walking heavy on the floor. You could tell, like, just coming in and open the door, you would not know what kind of thing you would meet at that day. So it was constantly worry about what would I see today? What will I hear today? I was terrified. Uh, but I was there for around 3.5, 4 years, and until we had to flee for our lives to a women's shelter. He almost killed my mom that night. And I just remember the rage, the hate I started to feel for this man. And what happened was I started to store that hate. Like I saved it in me. I didn't speak to anyone about it. I was just angry. And that built up so much inside of me that I later in life had to do a lot of healing with. But I also believe that when you grow up, especially very young, and are through abuse, you start attracting the same thing for yourself if you don't heal it, if you don't do the work that's necessarily, which happened to me when I was 15 years old. I had my first boyfriend and he was abusive. He raped me. He would just put me through this psycho treatment. Like he would compare me to his ex-girlfriend to gain his way with me. So if I didn't want to do something, especially sexually, he would say, Emily would do it. Emily would do that. So I would do it. So I could, because in that age, I'm 15 years old. I just want to be loved. I want him to love me as much as this Emily girl. So I was in this horrible position where I just came out from this abusive stepfather, and now I'm going in the same footsteps. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to go where I just been and be like my mom. I love my mom to death, but it was so many things that I saw that it was like, this is not okay. So I started to, instead of healing at this point in my life, I'm 15 years old, and for about, I would say, 8 more years, I become very self-destructive. I start taking alcohol, drinking alcohol, taking drugs, just running from myself constantly. And I'm not even aware that I'm doing it, because when you're in it, you don't see it. You're thinking that you're the biggest victim of all time and you're blaming everybody else. You're hating on the world and everybody's the same. That's how it was for me. And I couldn't deal with these emotions. So I started to drink, and I just used anything to get out of my own self. Like I just wanted to get out of myself. And that's what happened when you go through something. Like, I'm not saying that everybody has to go through alcohol and abuse and stuff, but it's a very common pattern because we just want to forget. And it was not until I started to really heal myself and understand that, okay, I am running. What am I running from? It's over. And this is what people always talk about. Okay, it's over now. She's out of it. But what people don't talk about is actually the consequences of the trauma that you have been through, that follows you for years, that hunts you, that little critical inner saboteur voice that tells you you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough. And you have to constantly be in a war with yourself. That's how it was for me. And that was the hardest part. That was the hardest part. Being under the abuse was extremely hard. But the time after and how destroyed I was as a person, or my mom, for example, that took years to build up. Years. And you really need that support. You need that help, especially afterwards, right? Just growing up in a women's shelter, that's not normal. So you have to talk about those things. So I think that was a big part of my life for a long time. And I didn't understand when I was very confused when I chose boyfriends after that, because I didn't know what was right and what was wrong. Because I've seen so many things and I thought, at least he's not hitting me. So that was an excuse. So he can scream in my face and tell me these horrible things. And I would accept that because at least it's not hitting me. So it was hard for me to draw that line to see what is okay and what is not.
Yeah, you hit so many nails on the head for me, just based on my knowledge around domestic violence and having numerous conversations, and of course being a survivor myself. And I just want to summarize some things that you said. You were exposed at such a young age, and the unfortunate part is that you lost your father before you were able to talk even. So it's like that void took place overnight unknowingly. Like you're a baby. You don't have the capacity to understand the effects or the impact that everyday life is going to have on you as a child. And it sounds because of decisions that were made and environments that you were in. And if it was constantly this underlying act of violence, whether it was verbal or physical or financial or however, it almost seemed like it was normal because that's what you were exposed to most of your life. And at some point when you were 11 or 12, you're saying that you realized when you were in that shelter, when your mom had to flee for safety, you had already realized you built up all this hatred towards this man. You realized that you were unhappy, that this was not normal, but you had no control over it. So during that time, like, how was that relationship with your mom, and how was it through your personal struggles when you were not rebelling but coping to the best of your ability, when you went to an abusive relationship of your own, when you started getting into the drugs and alcohol? Did you have support? Did you feel like that was your only outlet? Did you know at that time that you needed more help?
I'm going to start with the relationship I used to have with my mom. When we went to the women's shelter, my mom was like, I only know the word in Swedish. I'm Swedish, by the way. Like a shell. Like it wasn't my mom anymore. She was so beaten down, like mentally, and frightened and scared. And I had to take care of her for a long time, actually. I have to do the normal things. She got burned out. She couldn't go to work. She was home. She was scared. Every time she would see a white car, she would get like a panic attack. It was hard. And at this time, I'm 14 years old, about to be 15. So I'm in an extremely vulnerable age. When I'm angry, I'm sad, I am scared, but mostly angry. And I just turn to the world. I'm turning into this victim. Everybody's against me. Nobody cares. The system doesn't care. It was just a bad spiral, I would say. It was just spiraling down. And then I didn't have my mom as a support because she wasn't even herself. She could barely take care of herself. And when she built herself up through therapy and doing the work, she wanted to go back and with that mother role around when I was like 16, 17, and didn't work at all, because then I've been taking care of myself and her for a long time. So I'm like, and who are you again? Coming here, tell me what to do and what not. Like, it didn't work. So I almost felt like I needed to show her that I had my own independence. And it became a very struggle in our relationship. It took years to build that up. And something I want to mention here too is I do have a documentary movie about my life and about the story afterwards. After the abuse, they wanted to do a documentary story about it, and also about the relationship between me and my mom and how we rebuilt it, because it was broken for a long time. It was really broken. And we don't really talk about these things because most of the women that goes into women's shelter have kids. And rebuilding that relationship with your kids, especially if they're teenagers, that is a hard struggle for the mother and for the child. And that needs to be addressed and talked about, because it needs to be more help afterwards, I do believe. So in the movie Say Something, you can watch how we actually rebuild our relationship and how we have to like really put the card on the table and meet. And yeah, I think I answered your question, I think.
I know, and I had a list of them. I didn't even give you a chance to answer one at a time. I just kept popping them off. So I appreciate that. And Say Something is the name of the documentary?
Yeah, the documentary movie, yeah.
I love it. I love it. And so obviously you got to a place where you forgave her and you were willing to do this documentary. Was that a big part of healing for both of you? Did that make a significant change?
Yes, it absolutely did. And that's how my career also started with Say Something, because then I started to see the impact that your story can have, and how many people reached out to me when it went on the movie theaters and stuff and went on the TV. We released in many other countries, like the Scandinavian countries and also Brazil. So it made a huge impact to a lot of people and a lot of teenagers, I think, because they could relate. Because in the middle of, I don't understand why I'm acting in a certain way, why I feel this emptiness, why I feel so lonely and angry. And a lot of people can relate to that because they have been through abuse, and then they think in their head, it's over now, we're gone, safety. But you're not, because your subconscious mind have all these stored memories that you need to work on. If not, you're going to start attracting maybe the same things into your life. And it becomes this hole, like this empty hole inside also. Say Something really was a healing part of my mom's and my relationship, because I was 18 when they started filming, and they were filming us for 5 years. So they got to through a lot of my time afterwards, when I was like, okay, this is it. I need to change. I need to have a serious change in my life, because I went into hospital a couple of times for suicidal attempts, which is very sad. And I'm very happy to be alive today. But the last time I was 23 when I really realized, okay, I need to change. I really need to change my life and start doing some healing work. And I wanted to travel the world, which I did. And then I met my husband, because I was ready for it. I was ready for a good man to come into my life, and I was ready to see my own worth.
Amen to that. Let's talk a bit more about how we can help people identify when they're in that space, certain feelings and voids that you mentioned that let you know that you're not in the right place, and what to do when you come to that recognition within yourself.
When you actually realize and seeing all the red flags that has been there the whole time, I think the most important thing is to reach out for help. I'm not saying go and tell a friend or anything, but it is hotlines out there that you can talk to. And I remember calling one of these hotlines once, when this was a long time ago, but I had a huge fight with an ex-boyfriend, and it really escalated. He didn't hit me, but I wanted to know, is this normal? Is this how it should be? Should I accept this? Was it my fault? I've been gaslighted. So I believe that when you find yourself, start journaling. Of course, do this in a safe place where nobody can find anything, maybe on your computer with a password, I don't know. And also start documenting, especially if it's violence, abuse, like physical abuse. Start having proof, because it is hard to go up in court and prove without those things. It's extremely important. And if it's kids involved, it's also for their sake, for their lives. But I would start to research where is my rights here, who can I call, where's the nearest women's shelter, can I talk to a friend that I trust, or a family member, what's going on. Just reach out, speak up. Because what we do is we tend to live on those moments where everything is good, which is usually not often in those type of relationships, but we seem to just hold on to them because we think that they will change, that if we just get better, if we just stop doing wrong things, it will stop, but it won't.
It's like, it's almost like our love can blind us to the point where our desire is actually bigger than reality.
Yeah.
And I would say, just to mirror what you've already said, is that when you know something isn't right, that's when you need to really take a step back and put your feelings aside and be logical with yourself, because nobody can force you to make the change that you yourself need. You have to know when it's time.
Yeah.
And something else that you mentioned earlier about comparing that verbal abuse, you're like, oh, he's not hitting me, maybe this is acceptable. But there's so many silenced ways to abuse somebody.
Yeah.
Financially, economically, through technology, narcissistic behaviors, stalking even can come across covert. There's so many different forms. And I really want to acknowledge and applaud you for having the strength, not just to take care of yourself after what you went through as a young child, but also to pick up your mom and lift her up and help to empower her as a woman through the hardest of teenage years, where your hormones are popping, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're confused, you have no idea, you're dealing with your own escape mechanisms. And then to have the love and the compassion to forgive not just her but yourself, and do that documentary to show the world that we all can come from a place of complete trauma and still come out on top. The post-traumatic growth is a real thing, and it's how we go about coping and dealing with it, and what we do with the wisdom and the strength that we obtained from that traumatic experience in our life that we had no control over.
Exactly. And it's so true, because just because you come from somewhere, it doesn't determine your future. And that was something that I always had with me, like inside. It's going to be good one day. It's going to be hell of a good, because I'm going to make sure it will. But it was so dark for a long time. But when you keep fighting out of that, and when you get on the other side, man, you will be so proud of yourself.
That's right. That's right. And I am so proud of you. I want to definitely share that, because you've done so much even since your movie. Would you like to share with the listeners what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. Except being a mom, I just became a mom 1.5 years ago. That is taking a lot of my time, but I do coaching. I coach women who have gone through traumatic events. And I also do mastermind retreat. My retreat is called Mastering the Feminine Power, and it's for women who have gone through trauma and want to explore not only their healing, but also they want out something more in life. They want to become entrepreneurs. They want to put their ideas, because I believe also, this is something I need to say, because I believe that women, even if you have been through abuse or whatever, we have this little block inside that, oh, I have an idea or I have a dream, but I'm not good enough, or we compare ourselves, or we're not going to take that chance, we're going to choose another path, or whatever it can be. And I believe that it's important to surround yourself with like-minded women to get to that point and see that other women have done it before us, to get that little push, because we haven't been having the same rights for that long. So in our subconscious mind and in our past, in our genes, it was like we were supposed to have babies, feed them, and that's it, be a good wife and stuff. And now we have so many opportunities that comes from there. And I just want to break that genetic trauma that we have had for such a long time. So I created Mastering the Feminine Power in the thought of creating a safe place for women to come and heal and grow together. And I also, because me and my husband, we started with the Mastering Mastermind 2 years before I started with for the women, because I saw at our mastermind retreats that a lot of women were holding back. They were not sharing their stories. They were not really hands up or anything. And I do believe that sometimes as women, we can feel a little intimidated by very successful men when they're sitting with the table. Why would we want to talk about trauma? Why would we say certain things? It's hard. So I wanted to create a safe place for women to just come together and just, so that is what I do today. So I absolutely love working with women and see their power. And especially when women don't see their power themselves, and we all other people in the room see it, and we're like, girl, you're so freaking amazing if you just knew.
Yeah, wake up.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I don't have much confidence, or I'm not good at this, and we're like, shut it, you're not allowed to speak that. Tell me what you're good at, because you're only excusing why you're not doing that, or why you can't do that, or you're just talking about your weaknesses, and it's not true. We have been
That's right.
for so long, and it's not true.
And those are those negative affirmations that make you believe that's what
Yeah.
it is that you are. You cannot talk negative about yourself or to yourself, because then you start, that's how you move in the world. That's your walk.
That's how it starts. You have this little inner saboteur, and every time you have a great idea, which is amazing, you might not put it into work because you have that inner saboteur that's talking to you all the time. You know, you're scared. You failed last time, remember? You're not good enough, because maybe you heard it when you grew up. Maybe you have been through abuse. So you believe that's part of your identity, but it's not. Right. It's not. That you can work on. And that is why I do what I do, because I truly believe that when we women come together, magical things happens. Like when we support each other, we can go so far, so far.
That's true. And a community is all that it takes.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. A community of like-minded women that wants you to grow, and they share also the traumatic things, because we see all these amazing successful women maybe on TV and stuff, but most of them have been through hard times to get where they are, and that's why they are where they are, because they have been through some like crazy things that you wouldn't even imagine, that they had to go through that and become that strong person to really elbow themselves forward and become who they are today.
That's right. And most of those people also sought out help because they knew they couldn't do it themselves. And a lot of us strong, independent, strong-minded, strong-willed women will feel and try to do it everything ourselves. And
yeah, but you cannot build, for instance, you cannot build an empire by yourself. You can only build so much, and that's it. Actually, picking up a hand and saying, I need help, is the strongest thing that you can do. Being all by yourself is what we might have been taught. I don't know where it comes from, but we think that if we can just do it by ourselves, we're strong, we're not showing weakness, but it's actually the opposite. We need help. Everybody needs help, and it's okay. It's amazing to say, hey, I need help. I need to reach out to someone. It's a power, it's a strength to do. And what maybe a lot of people are scared of is to be seen as weak. But anybody who would have reached out to me and say, hey, I need help, I would be like, that dude, that's a woman I want to be with, because she's strong. She's reaching out to a strong woman that she thinks can help her. That's a strong woman right there.
That's right. And you'd be more amazed to see how quick somebody's willing and able to help. They actually want to help.
Exactly. We're like that. We were born in villages back in the day. We were there to help each other. And now we have grown society, and we're like, all by ourselves. And we're like, where's everyone? We're everyone for themselves. But it's not true. We are there. If somebody asking, take your hand out there, ask for help. I'm telling you, there's going to be so many people that be like, yes, how can I help?
That's right. Yeah. And one thing that you said a couple times that I meant to respond to, which I'll take the opportunity now, and that is extreme independence is a natural trauma-driven response. It's natural. Yeah. It's just we have to, again, be able to recognize it so we can break it and allow people to help and to start building that community.
I love that. So true. Thank you for pointing that out, because it is.
Yeah, it absolutely. Yeah, and you can move a million times, but ultimately you live in your head. So getting your mental house in order is like priority in my book, I think, anyways.
Live with yourself until the day you die, and that you need to have a good one with.
Yeah. So Isabell, I just want to say thank you so much for being here again. And if you can give our listeners your wounds to wisdom statement, I would love it.
Yeah, I would just say, speak up, say something. I love that phrase, say something, because you're not alone. The more you speak up, the more you can help somebody else, and the more help you can get yourself.
That's right. Very true statement there. Wounds to wisdom. Thank you so much. And I will be sure to post the links that you provided earlier to your retreat as well as your movie. And I'll have that in the credits at the end of our interview here. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I would love to have you back.
Oh, I would love to come back. Absolutely. And thank you so much. What you do is incredible. Your work is so important. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for supporting me, supporting us. Confronting Domestic Violence is a 501c3. All contributions, volunteers, and sponsorships are welcomed. It takes a community to make a difference. Nobody should suffer alone. Please scan the QR code.